Somebody's calling my name. I can hear them calling. I said, be quiet now. Somebody's calling my name, crying on my Lord. Oh, my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
Harriet, a love story. Now, the existence of love at first sight has been denied by the wizards and witches of late, and it was too late for me when I found the love of my life. When I saw her and remembered, it had already been game over. She was a bookish woman who rarely left her house, and it was rumored amongst a few citizens of Shantyville at the time that she was practicing black magic. Now, I didn't see a hermit in her, no, I didn't see the practitioner of the dark arts. I saw a gorgeous woman in her late 20s who wore sundresses, and through her glasses were two of the greenest, heart-catching eyes any man had ever saw. As bewitching her eyes must have been to anyone who saw them, there was nothing at all that resembled darkness in them. They were lit up in excitement at flowers and poetry. I was in love for the first time in several years. Several years had passed by, and I was increasingly losing myself into the ether of forgetfulness, and seeming to dwell in an existence of fog and cloud, it seemed. For some reason, I told myself with fervent conviction that she was mine. Now, I fancied myself a librarian job, and as I worked, I saw her enter frequently as she could for being so locked away all the time in her large yellow house that was fading with age. Paint chips cracked along its outer walls, and the support beams had cracks too. Overgrown by that Japanese foot-and-night vine known as kudzu and wild blackberry bushes, her entrance walkway was growing narrower and narrower. It had been a month since she entered the library. At least that had been my memory of the matter. I felt the need over time to go check on her. It was a small town, and a beautiful woman such as her couldn't be practicing such dark arts, I believed. Turns out I had been deadly wrong. I made my way to her door, which creaked open as if expecting me. It was dark inside in that seemingly abandoned house. The full moon was bright enough to light the outside of her large 2-story, and I lit a match to take one daring step into the foreboding darkness inside. "Hello? Miss?" I said aloud. There was no answer. I know a house that isn't yours should not be explored by your wondering feet and curious eyes, but I am not you, dear reader. You might call a cop to do a wellness check instead, and you might consider it foolish to trespass on a known dark witch's house with self-given welcome. However, it was at least the way my ma always told me, normal for me to be foolish. This errand I ran with no real plan set was a matter of the heart, and perhaps it was a fool's errand, and as it might be, I had a bouquet of tulips in one hand, and I took one more step to look around. Hovering my lit match around the dark room, I saw nothing. I heard nothing, except a thud on the ceiling as it sounded like someone fell upstairs or dropped a book or two. I made my way across creaky, dusty floorboards to a steep staircase which spiraled up the large house that belonged to the love of my life. The hallway was dark, but a faint light flickered at the end. It was coming out of a bedroom. As I made each step, I said, "Miss?" There was no answer. "Miss, it's the town librarian. Your account is fine. Folks are beginning to worry, though." Still, there was no response, just a draft of wind that seemed to go right through me. A rat scurried past me. I took 3 more steps towards the dimly lit room. Opening the door, I saw a candle, some flowers, and an old dusty acoustic guitar. When I looked above the items, I realized it was a shrine. A shrine with a giant portrait of me, of all people, above the items below. Flowers and candles and weird occult items. I felt an uncanny discomfort. Her smiling face seemed too genuine, I had thought. It was hard to accept I was wrong. "Oh, Daniel," a sobbing woman said just to my left. She sat at a piano on the far side of the room wearing a black dress. 2 books on necromancy had fallen to her feet, creating the thud I had heard earlier. "Now, miss, how do you know my name? Why are you crying, miss? What's with the portrait of—" The woman sobbed. It looked right through me. I was convinced somehow she couldn't see me. Wolves howled outside as the wind picked up. "You left me too soon," she said. "What do you mean I left?" If only I could join you, Daniel." She looked at the blade in her hand. It looked recently sharpened and ready for treacherous deeds. Her hand trembled the more she stared at it lovingly. More tears produced, and she sobbed, dropping the knife to the floor to hold her face and cry. "Now, Harriet," I said, feeling defeated in any way to comfort her. Finally, our eyes met, and 5 years of my past life flashed before my eyes. A smile struck my face as all of a sudden I knew her name again. I remembered now. In life, I was no librarian, just a janitor. It was the library where we had met. In the poetry section, we had talked. It was the pasture of dandelions and daffodils surrounding the library where we had kissed the first time. There before me sat my widow. A great painful peace filled and left me as I too was about to depart the earth. A flash of visions clarifying my lost time, filling in the gaps of confusion that had ended. I had recognized my wife after all. From time to time I visit the library. Sometimes she's there, and sometimes she ain't. Today was beautiful October 31st, and she had some tulips clipped to her blouse. Her eyes seemed less tired. I hoped for her dearly she would again find love, for my visits can be no more, lest I get stuck here on earth.